Sequences is the culmination of everything in our other programs. It requires you to be able to generate force, move through a wide range of motion, and to control your body in complex and challenging movements. Today, Eduardo and I are going to walk you through exactly what that looks like with a full session demo from Sequences. Let's get into it. And the first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to go to gmb.io. And from our website here, we're going to go to login. What this is going to do is take us directly to our Praxis platform. Now, I've already logged in, so obviously it's just going to jump right in there. What it's going to do, it's going to take me to the most recent program that I've done. In this case, it was Elements. But what we're going to do is we're going to go up to Programs, and this is, of course, where all of our programs live, and we're going to go to Sequences. Now, here you can see, this is my dashboard. It's going to show actually what sessions I've already completed, breakdowns of those sessions, and you can see here also that the available durations for our sessions. We have a 30-minute session and a 45-minute session. Now, in this case, what I'm going to go ahead and do is go back to a session that I've actually already done. And so this is the session that we're going to be going through today. And I wanted to take you through that session. So what we're going to be looking at today is the swipe to 90-90 transitional floor kip and the snake down. So I'm just going to click on that. It's going to take me back to actually when I did that session just a couple days ago. And it's going to show the date for that, which is kind of cool. So everything is tracked here in Praxis. When you log in, it'll keep all of your data. We're going to go ahead and hit Start Session. Now, it's going to give you a little breakdown here of what's in the session, and then all you need to do is hit Next. It's going to ask you, do you want to do a 30-minute or a 45-minute session? Today, what we're going to do is take a look at a 30-minute session. Hit Continue. Good to go. Now, we're going to start off with Prepare. And so we want to warm ourselves up for what's to come. There's a breakdown here. It's going to show you what is in the prep section here. We got wrist circles around the world, twisting bear, egg roll, and the kneeling back flexion to prone lying back extension. That's actually not the order. I kind of messed that up, but you don't have to worry about that because Praxis is going to do everything for you. All you need to do is just hit Start Prepare. It's going to take you directly into the tutorial. You watch that tutorial, and then after that, it's going to take you to a timer. And for our prep, it's going to be a minute for each movement. And all you got to do is do that prep. So let's go ahead and get into that. Let's take a look at wrist circles. Now, with feet shoulder width apart, knees slightly bent, simply like for you to lightly clench your fists. And you're just going to rotate the wrist. Now, one thing about this is try not to open up the wrist too much. So try and keep the palm so that it's facing the ground as you're performing these circles, making sure to go in both directions. This might be a little tricky in the beginning, but one way to help with that is that you can use the opposite hand, holding onto the wrist close to the hand, and then performing these circles. Range of motion might not be that great in the beginning, but with time, it will get better, and you will find that your wrists are going to feel a lot better simply by doing these wrist circles. All right, so the timer's going, letting us know to get ready. We just started. We're going to do a minute of these wrist circles. Now, first off, I want to say, unfortunately, Eduardo is opening up his wrists when he's doing the circles, and this is actually good. And the reason why is I want to point this out, and that is you're not going to get everything right when you're first learning a movement, and that's fine. The thing is that you'll want to watch the tutorial, and you'll want to pick one key point when you're working on a particular movement. Just the sheer fact that you're moving your wrists around, that they're going to get warmed up. Of course, yes, we do want to focus on key points that I'm sharing, but as I mentioned, there are certain things in here where it's just a matter of, okay, doing the thing and then going back later watching the tutorial again in order to pick up those other fine points. You're doing this for 1 minute, and when you're doing this again, I just want to bring the focus to that part of the body that you're working on. We're coming down here. We're going to go to the next tutorial. For this movement, I'm going to ask you to roll backward and forward into this sitting position. Now, the main thing with this is making sure that you keep your body round when performing the movement. So I'm going to ask you to tuck your chin and keep your chin tucked the entire time. It's also going to help to lightly hold on to your knees. Now, I'm going to show this to you quickly. Rounding the back. And I'm just going forward and backward. And notice that I'm trying to keep this egg position, if you will. We're not going to be completely round. So you're going to have your back rounded, keeping your back round. Your chin is going to be tucked. And when performing this, just focus on a breathing pattern that's going to be good for you. If you need to breathe through your mouth, that's perfectly fine. I like to breathe through my nose. Obviously, I'm talking to you, so I can't do that. But what I'm not doing is bracing when I'm performing this movement. It should be very relaxed, yet we should keep that form in which our back is round and the chin is tucked. And we're simply rocking back and forth when performing this movement, holding on to our knees very lightly when performing this. You might actually find, though, that you don't quite have the core strength to do this. You might need an extra little kick to help get you up there. Notice that I'm kind of kicking the legs out. That's perfectly fine, but do try and keep this form by keeping your back round, because I don't want you to be flat and hit the ground hard. So once again, chin tucked, back is round. Natural breathing pattern, just going backward and forward. All right, the clock is counting down for us. We're going to do these egg rolls. Got Eduardo here demonstrating. Now, key point, I can't stress this enough. When you're working on something like this, I want to make sure that you keep your chin tucked and your back rounded. Eduardo is a pro here. He's doing this on a floor that is not padded. In the very beginning, I suggest that you use something softer, so that you're not going to hurt yourself. Now, yes, for the prep here, Eduardo is going for the full minute. If at any time when you're working through any of our programs, including the push section, I'll get to that here in a little bit later, but prep, practice, play, take a break if you need to take a break. Use the movement in a way that's going to be beneficial for you. So that means you might need to adjust things, might need to use your hands in order to help yourself up. Do what you need to do in order to do the movement. Coming to the end here, one more tutorial. I like to call this movement the around the world. The reason why is that you're going to be circling your hands around you and then returning. So Rose will start in a squat. She's going to place one hand behind her, making sure that her fingers are facing to the outside. She loads this arm, and as she does that, the other arm is placed on the ground in line with that hand, making sure that this side hand's fingers are also facing outward. From here, she loads this arm, bringing the first arm forward, then finally finishing by bringing the other arm forward into the squat. She then goes back, and that's it. Same thing, just the opposite side. Very nice. Now this is the around the world. In the beginning, you might want to start with having your hands relatively close to your butt. This is going to make it easier. So Rose, go ahead and keep your hand pretty close. Going to give more stability in the beginning when you're learning this movement, but as you get better with it, feel free to place your hand a little further away from your butt. Nice. All right, so let's get ready for the around the world. This is a movement that I see people having trouble with. They kind of get stuck and they can't get back to the front. One thing you can do is simply not put your hands on the ground if you're having trouble with this. So for example, maybe you can't go all the way down into the squat. Just go down as far as you can and just make circles. Really, that can work for this position. I mentioned this earlier, but you want to adjust the movement so that you are able to do it. It's not looking at what you can't do. It's focusing on what you can do and doing that. So once again, during this minute, if you need to adjust the movement, in order to make sure that you can actually do it, that's fine. Just hang out in the squat. Maybe just go in and out of the squat. That could be an adjustment for you if you're having trouble with this. I will say if you are doing sequences though, well, yeah, you got to be able to do this.
So Sarah is going to work on this spinal mobility exercise. She's going to bring her hands forward, tuck the chin in, and sit your hips back as much as you can. Then you're going to switch directions. You're going to go forward, and you're going to arch your back, extend your back as much as you can, and go back and forth. So don't hold too long, maybe a couple seconds to settle into it, but you're going from full rounded flexion to backward bending or extension. Bring your hips forward, your chest up, and in reverse direction, hips back, chest down. Sarah, go ahead and do it a couple more times, and then when you're done, go back to kneeling and sitting straight up.
All right, time for another prep movement. Now, I mentioned this earlier, but when you're working through a prep movement, make sure that you're adjusting this according to what you need. We all have different things going on in our bodies, so just be aware of that. I want to say that this is just one example of a prep session that we have in sequences. We have multiple, I should say, variations in our prep. So you're not going to be doing this exact same prep session every single time that you go through sequences. It changes. And what I'm doing is programming these movements in here to make sure that it's preparing you for the movements that are upcoming later in the session. That's why we call it prep. Should make sense, right? So after this movement that you're doing here, we'll move into one more, and then we'll get into the practice portion of the session. I like to call this the twisting bear. So Rose is going to demo this, show you here first, and I just want you to notice that all she's doing is setting up like the A-frame, performing the regular bear, but she twists her body. Okay, this is the twisting bear. Okay, now I'm going to have her go back and I'm going to talk you through this. So the setup is the same as all of our bears. Starting with the A-frame, she's going to bring one hand forward. Now, next up, when she brings her foot forward, she places it down so that the toes are facing forward. But what's going to happen now is both heels are going to drop to the ground. Keeping the back leg straight, she simply drops her hips, but I want you to also notice her shoulders over the hands. A lot of people tend to do this, end up with the shoulder traveling past the hands, or even sitting too far back. This angle is not what we want. So when you're performing this, you want to really focus on going slow, being aware of what's going on, making sure that the shoulders over the hand, your heels have dropped towards the floor, and that the back leg is straight. So Rose, one more time for me, please. Starting in this A-frame position, just like the regular bear, she brings one hand forward, the other foot comes forward, dropping the heels down towards the ground, hips drop, shoulder over the hand. Now Rose is going to go ahead and show us continuation of this to show how these work together. Twisting towards me, notice the back leg is straight. I'm going to ask her to do one more for me. She reaches the left hand forward this time, twisting down and bringing the hand in. Okay? One more thing I want to add to that, and then we're done. Rose, if you can come back for me. I just want you to notice this arm. A lot of people get a little confused about what to do with this arm. Just bring it slightly up off the ground. You can bend the arm a little bit if you want, doesn't matter. But try and keep your arm in front of you when you're performing the twisting bear. All right, final prep move the twisting bear, I gotta say, this is one of my personal favorites. And I say favorites just simply because this is one of the ones I do every single day. It's that good. I just think that it doesn't matter if it's sequences, elements, like whatever you're doing, if you're working on your weightlifting or anything. I just love this movement. There's so many good things that are going on here in terms of opening up the body, looking at prepping the wrist. We're looking at helping with the shoulders, obliques. We've got a lot of stuff going on here. So don't think that this should only be done if you're doing sequences. This is one of the movements that I think that we should all incorporate into our daily prep, no matter what you're doing. So there you have it. It's that good. Now we're going to be finishing off here with this last one. And once you're done here, you're going to move into the practice portion. All right, so once you've completed your prep, it's going to ask you how you're feeling. Now, I love this feature in Praxis, and it's because there are days where you're not really feeling it. And if that's the case, hey, well, at least you did your prep. What it's going to do is, if you click on this felt more tired than usual, it's going to take you to a low intensity session. So it's going to be about a total of 15 minutes, and that's all. So rather than a 30-minute session, you will get some work in. It'll be about 15 minutes and you're good to go. But hey, we're feeling good and we're ready to rock. So we're going to go ahead and click this button. And this is going to take us now to our practice portion, pardon me. And so in here, what we're doing is we're looking at practicing just exactly what it says, practicing these new skills. So I don't expect you to just jump into something and be able to do it. Of course not. That's silly, right? So what we're doing now is you'll go through that tutorial. And I do want to say quickly, once you've gone through these programs, or pardon me, these sessions, movements that you have practiced before will show up again. And so if you feel good about that program, you can actually go ahead and skip those tutorials and jump right into that timer. But in this case, we haven't seen these movements before. We want to make sure that we get the details for each movement down. So we want to watch that tutorial. So all you need to do, hit start practice. You're going to watch that tutorial. It's going to take you to the timer. And as you're working through this, I'll take you through the cues for that. Now this is the swipe to the 90-90 transition. Now, Rose is going to start off in a squat, and she's going to perform a swipe at a level that's good for her. Now, I want you to watch as she performs the swipe. She's going to control the landing that's going to allow her to drop her knees to the floor. From here, she continues the motion, allowing her to perform this 90-90 position and finishing here. Now, from here, you can just pop up into another squat and perform the opposite side swipe. Okay, so here we go. You might have looked at that practice move and thought, holy moly, there's a lot going on in there. And there is. And I want to explain why, what's going on here. In sequences, you're not just thrown a full combination of movements and think that she'd be able to do it. No, this session that we're looking at today happens later in sequences after you've learned the individual moves of this combination. I just wanted to show you here in this video what we're working towards. And this is a great representation of a combination from sequences. Now, again, you will train each individual movement and practice it multiple times before being asked to put it into a combination movement like you're doing here. So as you're watching this, don't think that you should automatically know how to do this. We gradually work up to being able to perform these movements. Now we just finished. What will happen is that you will come into this screen and it's a rest period. You'll have 30 seconds here before you actually go into another round of that. Let's take a look at the full floor kip. Now I'm going to ask Rose to demonstrate the most advanced version of this. And then what we're going to do is kind of backtrack a little bit. And the reason for this is that I'm kind of hoping that she makes a little bit of a mistake, because I want to show you that the worst that could happen is that you land in kind of a weird squat and happen to fall back onto your butt or roll back into it. In other words, you'll be fine. It is safe. And let's take a look at what's going to happen here. So I'm going to ask Rose to go ahead and start in the squat. And just at her own pace, she's going to show us her full floor kip. Great. Now, that's my fault. She hit me, but look, what happened? She walked back out of it. It was great, okay? It was a really good floor kip. Now, what I'm going to have her do now is show her doing this while she's sitting on the floor. What's going to happen here is that she's probably going to pop into a lower squat, and she actually might kind of bobble backwards, or she might even go forward depending on how she throws her hands. The important thing here is when you're working on this floor kip, as you come up out of it, you want to kick your feet high up into the air, driving the chest up and throw the hands forward in order to create momentum. So the plow position, and from the plow position, that kick is what's going to initiate the movement, and that's extremely important. So Rose is going to roll back. Now watch her feet as she kicks her feet hard up into the air and forward. And notice, she landed in that low squat and just sat out of it. It's perfectly safe. So when you're practicing this, don't be afraid to do it. Now, if you need to use a carpet, a mat, whatnot, please do. But when you're working on the floor kip, remember, the most important thing is to kick the feet, pushing away with your hands, and then throw the hands forward. One more time, Rose. Let's have you demonstrate this. Hard kick, push, throwing the hands forward. Great. She walked out of it going forward. This is perfect. 3 examples of what could happen when you're working on the floor kip. All right, we're getting ready for the floor kip. A fun movement. Again, this is one of the more advanced movements, I should say variations of the floor kip. I don't expect you to be able to do this right away. This is why you're working up to being able to perform this variation in sequences. So as you're doing this is a great example here. You're showing Eduardo doing this on the floor. He's taking it easy. He's not just jumping right into each repetition. When you're practicing movements, you take a little break, make sure you're good to do the next one. I will say quickly before we move on, remember that once you've finished in the practice portion of this for 1 minute, you do have a break. And so you will perform this practice round, you'll perform rounds of this practice for multiple rounds, but you have that 30-second break. I'm just not including all of that here in this video. It would just make the video too long. So again, break here, and then we'll move into the next phase. All right, so cool, we completed our practice. And a little reminder here just to let us know that we're always trying to focus on making the movements smoother. It's not about nailing it or thinking it has to be perfect every single time. No, you're practicing the movement, just trying to get a little bit better each time with that movement. All right, so now it's time for play. And so in play, what you're doing is you're taking a movement that you've already practiced before. So it's not that you're just going to be thrown a movement and you've never seen it before and I expect you to explore that movement. Nope, that's not how it works. So you go through and you practice that movement, and then it will come up later in the session. So in this case, the real thing that you're just after is try and be relaxed and stay mindful of how your body feels when you're doing this. Feel free to take breaks during the time that you're working on this. So let's go ahead and get into play. All right, in this variation of the snake down, you're gonna have one leg up into the air, but you're gonna have a little bit of a hop to it. You're gonna catch on your toes of one foot. So Rose is going to demonstrate this for us. Notice her foot in the back here, catching, and then slowly lowering her hips to the ground. There's a lot of control needed for this. Make sure that you're working on the previous variations before going into this. Some key points for this though, once again, it's going to be difficult for Rose to just hang out here, but ooh, that was wonderful, good. Notice how slow and controlled that was. You don't really need to jump into this. It's a controlled snake down. Doesn't matter what variation we're working on. Everything is with control, making sure that we're looking to the side, keeping the elbows in, and slowly bringing our chest to the floor and then following up with the hips. Okay, we're moving into the snake down, and what I want you to take note of is how Rose demonstrated compared to what Eduardo is doing here. So Eduardo is doing more of the full snake down. Again, he's worked up to being able to do this. But when he's playing with this, notice that he's pausing, giving himself a little bit of a break before he tries it. Again, he's exploring this movement. He's not just cranking out reps like the Energizer Bunny. It's going nice and easy. You notice that he might give himself even longer for a break before he tries the movement again. As you're doing this, you will have to adjust depending on what you need that day. And again, you're not just jumping into one of the more advanced variations of this. You're going to start off at a very low level, the very beginning of sequences, and gradually, slowly work up to being able to perform the full snake down like Eduardo's demonstrating here. All right, you completed play. Good on you. Now it's time to move into the push portion of our session. And so this is really where things are going to ramp up. And a little difference between practice and play is that when you're going through your push, I want you to try to stick with that movement and not stop throughout the duration of the time. So whereas in practice and play, you took breaks when you needed, in push, you really want to try to not stop. But the way to do that is to adjust the movement, make it at an intensity that's going to be good for you where you can keep that quality form and still keep going. Okay, so let's start push now. The Spider-Man looks like a push-up. It is very similar to a push-up, but you're going to stagger your hands. So from the A-frame position, you're going to go into a twisting bear. The hips will drop to the floor, and you're simply going to bend your arms, bringing your chest close to the floor, and then push straight back up, and then go into an A-frame. This is the first variation of the basic Spider-Man. Now, again, it's very similar to a push-up. You perform that twisting bear, keeping your elbows close to your body, lower yourself to the ground, then push back up. Now, once you're comfortable with that, you can start to keep your hips up off of the ground. So now Rose is going to demonstrate this. She's going to go from that twisting bear, and notice she doesn't drop her hips now. But instead of going all the way to the ground, she's going to bend her arms just slightly and then push right back up. So that's our second variation. Remember the first one where the hips drop to the ground, then you lower yourself. The second one was where you keep your hips floating off the ground, but you only bend your arms a little bit. Now the final one for this Spider-Man is where you keep the hips high and you try to go to the ground as close as possible and then push straight back up. Starting from the A-frame, going into the twisting bear. Hips are floating down to the ground, pushing straight up and then into the A-frame. Now I'm going to ask Rose to do this one more time, but she's going to do 2 in a row. This is to show you how it's going to all fit together. So forward, dropping down, pushing back up into the A-frame. This time she's going to take the right hand forward, twisting towards me, doing the Spider-Man, straight back up into the A-frame and relax. That is the Spider-Man. Okay, so we're getting into our push section here now. Mentioned this earlier, but when you're going through push, I really want you to try not to stop. You've worked up to being able to perform this particular movement. It occurs early on in sequences, so you're already very familiar with this. A push movement is not going to be a movement that is very, very challenging for you in the sense that you can't do it. You already have exposure to this and should be able to do it very well. And that's why we have it in the push section, is so that you can continue to perform the movement and do it with quality while continuing to perform those repetitions without stopping throughout the duration of time. So in this case, you're performing this for 1 minute when you're doing this. For the sake of this video, we're not going to have multiple rounds of the superset. I like to call this one the 90-90 sit-up. So Eduardo is going to start in a modified pigeon position, which is a 90-90 position. He's going to roll back, and as he rolls forward back into the 90-90 position, he drives his hips up, lifting with the chest, and on the second one switches sides. So you're alternating between the right and the left, making sure to focus on really pulling the hips forward as you lift with the chest. You can feel free to use your hands if need be. Go easy on this and find a position that's going to be good for you. So time to start working on this sit up. Now, when performing this, I can't stress this enough, make sure that you point your toes when you do this so that you can roll over the top of your foot. It's going to be super clunky if you don't do that. It's going to make it quite difficult. Now, I like to switch each side when you're doing this. So the switch is going to occur when you roll back. Now, for this, pausing at the top, really focusing on opening up the hips is key here. And as you're sitting back, control the descent. So if you do need to use your hands, by all means do. But as I mentioned earlier, try not to stop. You want this to be, pardon me, a continuous movement for the duration of time when doing this. I already mentioned this before. We're doing the supersets, and you'll typically have up to 2 rounds of the single superset. For this video, we won't. It'll just be the single. This is the leg thread to the around the world. Now, Rose is going to start off in an A-frame. She's going to twist to thread the leg, and then bring that foot back so that she can perform an around the world. Continue with this, bringing the hand behind. She can pull that leg back through, and then she can go to the opposite side. Threading the leg, pulling the foot back into the squat so she can perform the around the world, pulling that back through, and you're at the beginning again. For our next superset, you'll be performing this leg thread variation. Now, it can look quite complex, and it can be if you've never done it before. But again, we're in the push section, so this is a movement that you're already very familiar with. It's a combination that you've practiced and also played with before. So now you're able to perform it in a way where you can just continue to do it in push. It's going to help with endurance, your stamina, as well as just allow you to be able to get better at the movement because you're spending more time with it. So push, in this case, yes, we're literally pushing ourselves harder, but it's really going to help to be able to sophisticate the movements, get a better feel and awareness for everything that's going on. It's just going to make you better overall, not just in sequences, but for everything outside of sequences in our real life that we're doing. Okay, so this is called the side shrimp. It's from my judo days, and if you've done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you've probably done this and love it, wink, wink. So the first variation of this is where Eduardo is on his back, and I want you to take note of his elbows. So he's using his elbows to drive into the mat as he lifts his legs up to the side towards me, and then drives his arms up across. So you're going in this direction up and down the mat, but using your elbows in order to help pull your hips up and over for this first variation. So the hips go over, then you bring your shoulders up off the ground and place them to the side, matching with your hips. That's the first variation. Second variation is simply where you don't use your elbows. You start with your hands extended to the front, pulling the hips up, then you pull the arms across. That's going to help you to bring the shoulders up and place them on the mat again. This is a little confusing movement in the beginning. Start with that elbow version where you're driving the elbows into the mat. That's going to help. The final third version here, simply where you just put that together and you don't stop. So it's a continuous movement where you're shrimping to the side, up the mat, and then back in the opposite direction. This is going to take some practice, but it actually is a great movement and a good core burn. All right, I mentioned this in the tutorial, but this is a movement that I used to do so much in judo, and also in other grappling arts that I did. Now, this is one of those movements where, like anything, it just takes practice. So make sure that you're breaking things down, focusing on the basic version of it first before you're putting it into action. So, as I mentioned numerous times, I'm not just asking you to do something here in sequences without preparing you beforehand. In any of our programs, I'm going to make sure that we start from the beginning, that you have the necessary tools and working up to being able to do these movements, the full movements of them over time. Like anything, we don't want to rush into anything. Want to build up to those things and do it in a way that's safe, but also enjoyable. Right on. Okay, we finished our push. Now, we're not done yet. The reason why is we actually move into the ponder phase of the session, and this is where we're going to rate how things went. And the first thing that we're going to take a look at when we're doing this, when we rate this, is that we're going to look at our favorite exercise. So when you were going through this session today, which one of these movements was your favorite? Praxis is actually going to log this for you. You're going to have a record of it. And so let's say today that the swipe to the 90-90, that was our favorite one today. So we're going to click on that. Okay, great. So the next one is, what was the most challenging for you? Now, in this case, maybe, I don't know, maybe it was the side shrimp. Great. Okay, so we hit that. Now, after that, we're now looking at how you felt. Now, the scale that we use here, a little different than other places in that what we're doing is we're trying to ask ourselves, okay, when we were doing the overall session here, how did it feel? Did it feel relaxed? Yes, there might have been movements in there that were quite challenging and they felt clunky. We'll talk about that in a second. But the thing is overall, did it feel relaxed? Did it feel solid? Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, I had a handle on it. Yeah, no, it was challenging. It was pretty tough for me. Or was it just maximum effort, like beyond what you needed? The reason that we're doing this is going to be really good to let you know where you stand with these particular movements as a whole, so that you can adjust for next time. So in this case, Eduardo, he did a wonderful job. So we're saying it was solid, okay? Now, how did you move? This is different than how you felt. So look at overall in these movements, and we'll start actually with the end of the thing here. It felt broken. It was just horrible. Everything I did, it just didn't work out. Now, I'm not trying to be negative here. It's just taking a look at, all right, didn't quite feel like I wanted it to. So might have felt broke. Now, might have felt rough, okay? And in this, you're not hurting yourself, but it did not feel like it should have, okay? Or it might have been smooth. Yeah, it's feeling pretty good. All right, cool. Or it might have been snappy. And this is where you own that movement or the movements within that session. It felt great, okay? So in this case, let's just stick with smooth for Eduardo. He did a really fabulous job. So we'll hit that. Now, once we move from that, what it's going to do is Praxis is going to take this written log here that we have, and we can add in some comments here. And this is going to go to your log, which lives in our community, the Alpha Posse. And so if you're a member of our community, then you can log there and keep a full record of everything that's going on. So pretty cool, right? After you hit complete workout, it's going to show you here what you did. So what happened in here. You did the swipe to 90-90 transitional floor kip, snake down. It's going to look at your ratings here, okay, where you evaluated yourself. On the bottom, you can see your log that will be posted. And then it's going to give you a quick look into what the next session is. So in this session, it's going to be the macaco, the backward shoulder roll to the coffee grinder, cult twist to macaco. And there you have it. This is that session of sequences. Like all of our main programs here in GMB, they live on Praxis, and you'll have a record of everything you do. You just need to sign into Praxis, hit resume session, start session, wherever it is you are in your program. It's going to take you through it and keep track of everything that you're doing. All right, thanks for watching, and here's another video that I know is going to help you out.